You look at Minecraft, and what do you see? Blocks, right? Simple. But what if I told you that underneath that charming pixelated surface, there's a universe of just staggering complexity? So today, we're going to peel back those layers. Let's see just how deep this blocky rabbit hole really goes. All right, let's just jump right in with a number that's going to break your brain a little. 18 quintillion. I mean, what even is that? It's an 18 with 18 zeros after it. That is how many unique possible worlds you can create in Minecraft. And if you're trying to wrap your head around that, good luck. But here's a thought. If every single one of those worlds was a planet, you'd need something like 180 million Milky Way galaxies just to have a place to put them all. It's just nuts. So that leads to a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? How in the world can a game with that many potential universes fit into a download that's what, like 500 megabytes? It's tiny. Well, here's the secret. The worlds, they aren't actually stored on your computer. Not really. It's all a clever illusion. And by the time we're done here, you're going to know exactly how the magic trick works. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we're going to peel this thing back like an onion. We'll start with the two different Minecrafts, then see how players get their hands on the code. We'll uncover the secret to that infinite world, look at the invisible network holding it all together, and finally, see how this whole thing is still evolving. Let's get started. All right, first stop, the entry point, the two Minecrafts. Look, from the moment you decide to play, you've got a choice to make, and it's a way bigger deal than you might think. See, there isn't just one Minecraft, there are two, and they are worlds apart. So on one hand, you've got the classic Java edition, the OG. This is the Wild West of modding, a massive, free-for-all sandbox. It's also home to these quirky bugs that became features. You know, like quasi-connectivity in Redstone, that weirdness that people have built these insane contraptions around. Then, on the other hand, there's Bedrock. This was a total rewrite from the ground up, designed to run on, well, everything. Your PC, your console, your phone. It's fantastic for playing with friends no matter what they're on. The trade-off? It's a much more controlled, locked-down world, with its own curated marketplace for add-ons. And really, this Reddit comment just nails the core dilemma, doesn't it? Java is definitely preferred if you're on PC, and so are all your friends. But Bedrock is good in its own ways, especially if your friends don't have a PC. So what do you choose? The OG, endlessly customizable version that locks you to PC, or the one you can play with anyone, anywhere, but with, let's say, more guardrails? Okay, so you've picked your version, but that's just the first door. Because once you're inside, you realize the world is being constantly rewritten. And not by the developers, nope, it's being rewritten by the players. Back in the day, modding was pure chaos. It was called jar modding, which basically meant you'd crack open the game's file and start messing with things, just praying you didn't break everything. Mods were always conflicting. It was a mess. Out of that mess came the very first mod loader, just a simple tool to help mods play nice together. That idea eventually blew up into Forge, this super comprehensive API that basically ran the modding scene for a decade. But Forge got big, it got slow to update. So around 2018, when a major game update was taking forever, a bunch of frustrated devs just said, forget this. And they built Fabric, a super lightweight, fast alternative built for a game that was updating all the time. And this isn't just about different code bases. We're talking about two completely different ways of thinking. Forge is like a pre-wired house. It has all these official outlets, these hooks, and mods are like appliances you plug in. It's safe, it's standardized, it's stable. But you can only plug stuff in where the architect put an outlet. Fabric is different. It doesn't give you outlets, it gives you a scalpel. It lets modders perform surgery on the game's code, injecting their changes literally anywhere they want. It's insanely powerful and fast, but yeah, it's also way riskier. You better know what you're doing. All right, so we have mods changing the game, but they're all changing it on top of Minecraft's biggest magic trick of all, that infinite canvas. How does a game build an endless world from a tiny little file? Let's find out. And here it is, the answer to that big question from the beginning. It's a technique called procedural terrain generation. Your computer doesn't download a world. It downloads the recipe for a world. It's not shipping a body, it's shipping the DNA. The game literally builds the world on the fly, right in front of your eyes as you move through. So how does that DNA work? Well, you can think of it like an artist painting at the speed of light. Step 1, it shapes the terrain, just carving out the basic landmass with stone and air. Step 2, it adds water, filling up all the low spots to make oceans and rivers. Step 3, it paints the surface.
deciding, okay, grass here, sand here, a little dirt over there. And then only at the very end, it adds the finishing touches, placing the trees, burying the ores, and plopping down entire villages.
I mean, at its absolute simplest, the code could just be this. Y equals 100. The ground is always at height 100. And hey, it works. You get a world. A perfectly flat, perfectly playable, and, yeah, incredibly boring world.
Okay, let's make it a little more interesting. We can throw in a basic math function, a sine wave. Now, instead of flat land, we get these nice, smooth, rolling hills. It's better, for sure, but it's got a huge problem. It's perfectly repetitive. You could walk for days and you just see the exact same hills, over and over and over again. So what's the secret sauce? It's a clever mathematical concept called Perlin noise. The best way to think about it is it's a generator for smooth, natural-looking randomness. It makes sure that every single piece of terrain is unique, but also that it connects perfectly and seamlessly to the piece next to it. This is what gives you those endless, non-repeating landscapes that feel so real.
Now, obviously, even with this trick, generating an entire infinite world would melt your computer. So the game is super smart about it. It doesn't build everything at once. It builds the world piece by piece in these 16 by 16 columns called chunks. And it only generates a chunk when you get close enough to see it. That means the world beyond your render distance, it literally does not exist until you walk toward it. And this whole noise idea isn't just for the surface. The game applies the exact same logic, but in 3 dimensions, to carve out the caves under your feet. It uses the noise to determine density, basically deciding where to put stone and where to put air. And that's how you get everything from those giant open cheese caves to those long, winding spaghetti caves. It's a whole other layer of procedural magic. Okay, so we have an infinite, procedurally generated world being constantly remixed by players. But what happens when you're not the only one in it? Well, now we're going to the deepest layer yet, the unseen network code that holds multiplayer together. So some researchers actually decided to analyze Minecraft's network traffic, and what they found is pretty fascinating. You can see from these heat maps that the game is really only concerned with what's happening right around you. And you know what the biggest data hogs are? It's not the blocks, it's not the landscape, it's the entities. Other players, mobs, animals, all the moving stuff creates way, way more network traffic than the static world. But that same research paper also uncovered something kind of shocking. A massive inefficiency that's baked right into the game's very old design. So what does this 62% number actually mean? Well, it means that in a typical multiplayer game, about 62% of all the data being sent is redundant. Think about it like this. 4 of you are standing in a circle and a pig walks past. Now, a smart system would just shout once, "Hey everyone, a pig is walking by." But because of Minecraft's old architecture, the server doesn't do that. Instead, it whispers to each player individually. It tells you, "A pig walks by." Then it tells your friend, "A pig walked by." And your other friend. You get the idea. More than half of all the network traffic is just the server repeating itself. All right, let's bring it all together. We've gone from the 2 different Minecrafts, down through the player-made mods, into the magic of procedural generation and the weirdness of the network code, but the single most important takeaway from all this is that none of it is static. The entire blueprint is constantly, and I mean constantly, evolving. And you don't have to look far to see that evolution in action. Mojang just announced they're scrapping the old versioning system, 1.21 and all that. And why are they doing it? They're trying to keep up. They want to ship smaller, more frequent game drops instead of huge yearly updates. And frankly, it's a pace that the modding community has been setting for them for a long, long time. And that really brings us to the biggest question hanging over Minecraft's future. As this once simple block game grows into this incredibly complex platform, who's really driving? Is it the official developers at Mojang who are trying to steer the ship? Or is it the massive, messy, brilliant community of modders who are basically rebuilding the ship while it's already sailing? The truth, of course, is that it's both. And that constant push and pull, that tension, that's what makes this whole thing so incredibly complex and so alive.